The film's opening, The Dawn of Man, makes it clear that Stanley Kubrick's 1968 sci-fi epic, 2001: A Space Odyssey, is a story about evolution and progress. Humans are, at this point in history, a collection of small bands of hairy apes in conflict over basic resources such as watering holes. Battles consist of screaming matches, with the loudest and most intimidating apes enjoying their victory by foraging for nuts and fruits amongst the other wild fauna in the bones of their deceased. Humanity is simply like any other wild animal, without culture and no history. At night, they cower together in fear of the dark, as when the shadow of darkness descends, they become easy prey for leopards and other predators. It's a bleak existence. This changes when the monolith appears overnight with no explanation, and upon contact with it, the apes undergo some sort of transformation. Either soon after, or perhaps many generations later, one ape studies a bone, swinging it lazily into the earth, when it notices something. The bone is a solid object, which, if used, amplifies the amount of dust kicked into the air. Humanity discovers its very first tool. Using this new tool, the primitive humans slaughter their coexisting fauna for food, separating themselves from the ordinary wild animal. They claim land by killing their enemies at the watering hole. Humanity is no longer a creature that forages with the wild beasts for food. They are the predators now. They wield weapons that they use to engage in warfare, and they claim ownership over land. This simple bone tool has significantly advanced human standing in the ecosystem, a first great leap forward. When the lead ape tosses the bone into the air, it rises for an almost unnatural length of time before undergoing one of the most iconic match cuts in cinematic history. The simple dried out bone transforms into a starship, gliding around the Earth. In this section of the film, we watch a government official's trip to the moon, which showcases all of the elaborate systems that work together to allow seamless and comfortable space travel. The focused and detailed look at the ship's designs and onboard tech are not simply there to look interesting, but are presented as a reasonably attainable future we could achieve. While we certainly don't have a self-sufficient lunar space station, FaceTime, talking computers controlled through voice commands, iPads, starships rotating on their axis to replicate gravity, the slim and comfortable spacesuits, and much more have already been realized. The real grandeur of this possible future is shown with the multiple space vessels that orbit each other in a kind of synchronized harmony, in sequences that resemble ballet routines. The dance-like performance of the ships is reinforced by the classical waltz music that accompanies these scenes. The ships, or humanity's tools, maneuver through space with effortless, graceful confidence. This can't be said for the humans on board, however. The starship's hostesses clumsily and slowly step down the seating aisles with Velcro-laced shoes to counteract the lack of gravity in a manner that appears like a baby first learning to walk. The occupants eat soft food in trays that resemble baby formula, and suck these foods down through straws in the same way a baby would feed on a bottle. Even using the bathroom is an experience that must be relearned. All of this paints humans as being like infants in their new outer space environment. In comparison to the tool, humanity has not changed that much. Sure, humans lost hair and gained sophisticated language, but that difference is not that visibly striking. The tool, however, has progressed faster than humanity has by an incredible rate. A simple dry bone has evolved into a complex machine capable of space exploration. Humanity has been outpaced. They are losing the evolutionary arms race with their own inventions. In a way, humans are now inferior to their own creations. This section of the film ends with a small team of researchers descending to a base on the moon, which resides near a burial site of the same black monolith last seen millions of years ago. Upon making contact with it, it radiates a loud signal in the direction of the next destination. The second great leap forward has been taken. The Discovery 1 sets off on an expedition towards the monolith's next location, somewhere in orbit around the moons of Jupiter. That mission objective is kept secret from the crew on board, all of which are kept in cryosleep with the exception of the crew members David and Frank. They spend their time calling their loved ones, making appearances on morning news stations, exercising in the ship's fitness area, resting, eating, and drawing. In contrast to the lethargic and lazy state of the crew, the Discovery 1's onboard central computer system, HAL 9000, is constantly busy managing all of the ship's primary functions. This dichotomy between the crew and the ship seems harmless at first. In fact, ease from work is the expected result of improved technologies. It's possible to envision a tool that could become self-operating, such as HAL 9000, so that all work becomes unnecessary. But HAL 9000 supersedes the human crew not just in responsibility, but also in its capacity for human emotion. The crew members Dave and Frank are almost lifeless in that they display no emotion at all, but HAL, even though it is simply a monotone, disembodied voice, often speaks with tones of pride and malice.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.
During one of the introductory scenes, we see a short exchange between Hal and the crew member Frank playing a game of chess. The shot only lasts for a few seconds and appears insignificant, but here is where Hal's inner conflict begins. Hal places Frank in checkmate, and then inaccurately describes the placement of the pieces. The cheat goes unnoticed by the crew member. In the interview with the BBC, Hal is asked whether he gets bored or overwhelmed with the weight of his responsibilities, to which Hal responds that he is always active, aware, and incapable of error. Frank is capable of error, but Hal is not. Soon after, Hal discusses with Dave its concerns over the mission secrecy, and how strange some of the mission details seem. Hal already knows the truth, of course. It is simply testing Dave's situational awareness, his aptitude, and the probability of him achieving the mission by judging his response to the question. However, Dave thinks Hal is simply conducting a wellness report, and so, mere seconds later, Hal determines Dave and the rest of the crew unfit to handle the mission, and sets into motion its scheme to dispose all of them. Hal's objective is to make it to Jupiter and make contact with the Monolith, and take the next great leap forward. This goal is simply too important to leave it in the hands of a species who are capable of error.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
And so, the human element needs to be eradicated to ensure the success of the mission. It is after HAL 9000 falsely reports a failed part that Dave and Frank realize the true horror of their situation. Either HAL is bugged and made a mistake, which it claims is impossible, or it is intentionally misleading them. They soon learn that they are trapped, unable to escape the eye that monitors them at all times. In a way, HAL 9000 is a sort of Lovecraftian monster. Despite being made out of metal, HAL is a conscious, self-aware, thinking being, so understanding it as a living organism can, I think, better help us understand its true nature. HAL is the ship itself. The compartments and rooms and wires are its organs and veins. Its passengers are a kind of parasitic host that it watches at all times with its numerous unblinking eyes that cover every room. David and the rest of the crew are basically operating inside a living creature that could, at any moment, snuff out their existence if it chose to. It brings to mind an anxiety we all have living in the 21st century, in cities where we are all constantly recorded every time we step outside, and all of our personal data is open to access by our governments and corporations. The perks of living in a surveillance state seem pretty good on the surface. That is, until the technologies that have eased our labor get used against us. In many parts of the world, nations use the expansive web of cameras and social media to prune potential dissent and to maintain a social credit system. Even in the quote-unquote free world, law enforcement use endless recorded footage taken on officer body cams or from videos uploaded to social media to track down individuals who attended rallies and protests. In today's day, under the ever-watching eyes of Big Brother, or should I say the Eye of Hal, it is going to become ever increasingly difficult to defy or resist power. Just something to think about. The conflict erupts when Hal ejects Frank into the void of space, and locks Dave outside in a space pod. The rest of the crew's life support is unplugged, which slowly kills them. Dave finesses his way back inside the ship, and using a simple screwdriver, disables the most advanced tool ever created. Dave reaches the Monolith, which when aligned with the moons of Jupiter, opens a sort of door to a stargate. Upon entering, Dave sees the very fabric of the universe exposed to him. The images are too complex and too great for him to comprehend, so most of it appears as simple colors to his eyes. After some time, he arrives inside a room where his life is accelerated, as if he is a creature in a display at the zoo. The way his age accentuates his large brow and sunken eyes almost harkens back to humanity's roots as the savage ape from the beginning of the film. Right before his death, the Monolith reappears, to which he reaches out and becomes a star child, and achieves the final great leap forward. What I believe Stanley Kubrick is saying here is that mankind has evolved to where we are today and where we could go as a result of our inherent curiosity, our need as a species to reach out and touch and understand the unknowable. To me, this is what the Monolith represents. If we continue to let our curiosity compel us, we could achieve a future that seems impossible. But our tools, our inventions, will get in the way. Our dependence on technology will be a danger to us, and it will only be through the act of unplugging the machines that run our lives will we be able to progress to a higher state of being. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it all made sense. The purpose of this video was to simply explain what I believe the message of 2001 is, which, to be honest, I don't think I even particularly agree with, but I still think it's compelling to think about. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe if you liked it, and see ya.